Training artificial intelligence requires massive amounts of computing power, a resource usually hoarded by a few massive tech corporations. Bittensor was built to solve this by crowdsourcing that intelligence globally, paying regular people to contribute their hardware to an open network. It is the largest decentralized AI network on the market today. It commands a valuation of nearly $2 billion and handles over $100 million in daily trading volume across major exchanges like Binance and Coinbase. The architecture relies on an open marketplace of subnets. A subnet is simply a specialized network dedicated to a specific AI task. One subnet handles text generation, another generates images, while others tackle complex workloads like code review or data scraping. The scale of the network is massive. There are currently over 128 active subnets, powered by more than 8,000 reported GPU nodes operating around the world. Bittensor has clearly built the infrastructure to support a decentralized AI marketplace, but looking under the hood reveals a critical question. Is the intelligence produced by this network actually winning on merit, or is the activity driven entirely by clever tokenomics? Despite the billion-dollar valuation and backing from institutional players like Grayscale, the network has underlying structural flaws that are largely ignored by the broader market. This scorecard shows the discrepancy. Despite its massive market cap, Bittensor earns only a 56 out of 100 for freedom and a 63 out of 100 for returns. These are remarkably low scores for a project of this size. There is a sharp divide between the network's two identities. On paper, it features pure, mathematically sound tokenomics modeled directly after Bitcoin. In reality, its daily operations are highly centralized and tightly controlled by its founding foundation. Participating in this ecosystem means making a conscious trade. You get deep liquidity and institutional access, but you have to surrender ideological purity and look clearly at how the system actually functions behind its decentralized marketing. When it comes to economics, the Tau token has the most recognizable scarcity narrative in the entire decentralized AI sector today. This supply curve graph is a direct replica of Bitcoin's economic blueprint. The token has a hard cap of exactly 21 million. It also features a halving schedule, with the first emission cut completing in December 2025. Right now, the circulating supply sits at roughly 10.7 million Tau, or about 51% of the maximum. That post-halving emission rate creates a moderate annual inflation rate of 12 to 13%. The project markets a fair launch because there was no initial coin offering or formal venture capital allocation. However, between January 2021 and October 2023, over 5 million tokens were mined by a very limited closed group of early participants. That early advantage resulted in extreme wealth concentration. Today, the top 1% of wallets control approximately 90% of the staked token supply. The overarching supply mechanics are structurally sound, but that extreme wealth concentration created an oligarchy from day one, handing early insiders massive leverage over the entire network. Inside each subnet, the economy is split between two distinct roles. Miners perform the actual AI work, competing to produce the best outputs. Validators act as quality control, assessing that work and distributing token rewards based on performance. This flowchart outlines how the network divides its daily token emissions. The split is rigidly fixed. 41% goes to the miners, 41% to the validators, and the remaining 18% is paid to the subnet owner who defined the initial task. To determine which subnets get those daily emissions in the first place, Bittensor uses a mechanism called Tau flow. Under Tau flow, emissions are allocated to subnets based strictly on the net inflow of staked Tau tokens. If a subnet has more tokens staked than unstaked, it gets a share of the daily rewards. Setting up one of these subnets requires burning Tau. While this mechanism prevents network spam, it creates a massive upfront capital barrier for any new developer trying to enter the ecosystem. The incentive structure also has a documented flaw. Academic research shows a high correlation between a participant's stake weight and their rewards, but a very low correlation between their rewards and the actual quality of their AI output. The subnet system looks like an innovative, merit-based incentive structure on paper. In practice, it functions as a capital concentration game, where the richest validators secure the most rewards, rather than the creators of the best AI models. This brings us to the most glaring contradiction in Bittensor's marketing: the underlying consensus mechanism that keeps the entire network running. This matrix highlights the gap between the marketing and the execution. Bittensor does not use proof of stake. It operates on proof of authority. This means all block production is exclusively controlled by the Open Tensor Foundation. Governance is similarly restricted. A 3-person triumvirate made up of Foundation employees controls all protocol upgrades and network proposals. The Foundation holds absolute power over the chain. In July 2024, they demonstrated this by completely halting the network at will to address an exploit. That centralized control pairs with severe security vulnerabilities. There is no publicly disclosed third-party security audit for the core protocol, and the network suffered a nearly $30 million insider hack by former Foundation employees. Bittensor is not a trustless, decentralized network. Right now, every user and investor is entirely reliant on the benevolence and competence of a single centralized foundation. We also have to examine the network's economic sustainability. Stakers earn high yields, but we must look at exactly how those payouts are funded. The critical economic vulnerability is that Bittensor currently generates zero external revenue. There are no outside customers paying the protocol for AI services. As this diagram shows, all network rewards are funded entirely by tau token inflation. The reward pool is completely empty on the external revenue side, meaning payouts are not backed by real-world economic demand for compute or inference. Specific subnets on the network are actively processing billions of tokens daily, with some developers claiming faster inference speeds than major cloud providers. Yet none of that massive computational utility translates into revenue for the protocol itself. Until subnets can charge external clients for their services and route a portion of those fees back to token holders, the entire ecosystem operates as a closed loop. It is entirely dependent on continuous, inflation-driven token issuance to survive. Looking forward, Bittensor has to implement strict operational changes if it actually wants to achieve its decentralized vision. First, the Open Tensor Foundation must publish a concrete timeline for transitioning the network away from proof of authority to a genuine proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. Second, the project requires the immediate completion of a comprehensive third-party security audit of the core protocol. $1 billion market capitalization cannot win on unaudited code. Finally, developers must build protocol-level fee mechanisms. Subnets need the ability to generate sustainable external revenue from clients that flows directly back to the network. Executing these specific steps is the only way to transform Bittensor from a highly centralized, speculative experiment into a sustainable, decentralized utility. Depending on your specific goals and risk tolerance, here is how you should approach the network today. This decision matrix maps out strategies based on user types. For the passive investor, tau offers deep liquidity and a strong scarcity narrative. But remember that value accrual is entirely reliant on token inflation, meaning you have to actively stake your positions to offset dilution. For the active miner, participating requires intense, constant optimization and massive upfront hardware costs. This is not passive yield farming. It is a highly competitive financial game. For the decentralization purist, the recommendation is to avoid the network entirely. You should wait until governance is actually decentralized and the severe security risks tied to foundation control are permanently resolved. Bittensor possesses the most innovative AI subnet architecture in the crypto space, but until it fixes its absolute centralization and zero revenue flaws, it remains a high-stakes capital game dressed in AI clothing.